everyone. Welcome back to Two Kids and a Mullet Later podcast. I am so excited to have Tori on with us. She is one of my favorite content creators. Like the first time that I saw one of your videos, I was just drawn to you. Like we have such similar lifestyles too. So I feel like that is also what just makes you such a great like person for me to follow. So I'm just like really excited to have you on. Tori is a content creator. She also travels full time in the RV with her blue collar man.
Thank you for having me. You're also one of my favorite content creators. I remember when you followed me, I don't even remember how long ago, but I was fangirling so hard. I was like, there's no way that she followed me. And I was telling her, like, Two Kids and a Mullet Later, you know her? Like, she just followed me.
Oh my gosh. I love that. I want you to kind of like take us back a little bit. So when did you decide to travel full time in the RV with your man? And like, how did that conversation go?
So this conversation actually dates almost back to like the very beginning of our relationship. We've been together since 2020. And when we first started talking, he told me like, this is what he wants to do. He wants to be a pipeline welder. We're from New York. It's not really common up there. There's not many pipeline welders from New York. And so when we started talking about it, I thought it was cool. I was like, oh, wow, this is awesome. Like, I knew nothing about it, but I've always wanted to travel, and like RV life would come up on my, For You page all the time of like people traveling in a camper. And I was like, this life is so cool. So we had talked about it very early on, and he kind of like, was, oh, is this something you'd be interested in? I'd be like, yeah. And then it was a little over a year and a half ago, actually, August of 2023, he left to start traveling for the first time again. He had done it a couple months prior to that, a couple years before that. But he started traveling in August, and I didn't go with him until December. But that whole time, like, we knew that I was going to be going with him. He got the camper in November of 2023, and then I went with him the day after Christmas of 2023. Wow, yeah. That seems like so long ago, but so that whole time we knew, and like I just couldn't wait to quit my job and go on the road. Like there was no question in my mind. I always knew that we were going to do this together. We were going to go on the road together. We were going to live in a camper and travel. And I was so excited for it.
Heck yeah. I get a lot of questions, and I'm sure that you do, of women who are also interested in traveling full time with their man. So what were kind of the first steps for you to, I know you said you quit your job and stuff like that, but like, yes. What were kind of like the very first steps of you coming onto the road with him?
Step one, quit your job. And I just made a post about this recently. I don't think any job is more important than your relationship. Your employer does not care about you that much, like if it's a career, and you're like, this is your dream career. I get it if you guys want to do the distance thing. It works for some people, but we just didn't want to do the distance. So quitting my job definitely was one. I started a list, like when I knew that we were going to be doing this, in August of 2023, and we didn't get the camper until November. I started a list of like camper must-haves on Amazon, in my notes app of stuff that I'm going to need. And I started watching videos. I didn't watch a whole lot back then, but like I just started to, I was dipping my toes into finding out camper life and what I need and how to live that life, packing. So while he was away initially, before we got the camper, I started packing everything up. At the time I had all my stuff in my parents' house, so I had to just box it all up there and put it in their basement and hope that they'd be fine for a few years.
We kind of did, I guess, somewhat similar. We had to get a storage just to like throw all of our stuff in. Because, I mean, we were going back and forth whether or not we wanted to just sell everything. I know that that's like a lot of other people's thing is like, we're selling everything and we're going to go in the RV full time. But we knew that this wasn't going to be forever for us. And at some point we were going to want to settle down. So we made sure to save at least a little bit. That way we're not starting fully over.
Yeah, that's actually something I do regret. So I didn't sell a single thing. And I know like for you guys had a house for a while, right?
Right. Yeah.
So you didn't really necessarily have to, but like my parents ended up selling that house. So now I have a storage unit, but the time that we had to get to the storage unit, we were home for such a short period of time. So I literally didn't have time to, Facebook Marketplace stuff or like do a garage sale, So I threw all my stuff in storage. And a lot of that stuff I would love to get rid of because it's so old, like old clothes or like a dresser that's beat up, that by the time we get a house, I probably would just get a new set.
Right.
So I guess for like advice for like girls, I would say, linemen, they typically do this for a shorter period of time. I think a lot of times they're only in the camper for like 3 years or something, 3 to 5, something like that. Mm-hmm. So I would say for storage unit is probably fine for them, but like somebody who's going to be traveling for work and like they don't have an end date in sight, I would say sell it. Like get rid of as much as you can because you're going to be able to get it back.
Right.
You're going to be able to rebuy stuff when you do settle down. But like right now, it's unfortunate for us because we're paying for the storage unit, and like we have no idea when we're going to build a house. We have no plans yet. So we're just like throwing money away, it feels like.
Right. I do want to talk a little bit about you and your man. So how did y'all meet?
I actually love telling people this story. We met at trade school, actually.
Okay.
In 2020, we both happened to drop out of college the prior year. In 2020, we both went to trade school. It was supposed to be a 6-month program. I was in the construction program. He was in the welding program. I noticed him like in one of the meetings where all of the trades were together. I did notice him, but we didn't say anything in that meeting. And then he moved his truck. I noticed his truck initially because I didn't grow up around trucks. So that was like the first thing I noticed. I was like, holy moly, that's a big truck.
Right, because you said you're from New York, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, not the city, but like still, I lived in the suburbs. So like I didn't grow up around big trucks anyways. And so I was like, that's the biggest truck I've ever seen. So I noticed his truck, and then he moved his parking spot. Like I noticed when I'd get there in the morning and he'd be parked right in front of where I park. So he moved from the back of the parking lot to where I park. And then he would get out when I'm getting out and he'd walk a little bit in front of me. Yep. He'd walk a little bit in front of me and then he'd hold the door for me going in. And he did this for a few days. Like, didn't say a word. We made eye contact going in. But I remember being like, oh my goodness, because I always wanted to meet my person in person. And holding doors is like a huge thing for me. I think that ladies first, that's just how I am. Pretty traditional, I guess you could say. But
and chivalry. I mean,
yeah.
We love that.
Exactly. Yeah. So then he finally came up to me at lunch one day, which our lunches were different times, but like they just happened to overlap this one day. This was a month into us being at the program. He came up to me at lunch. I was eating a salad outside by myself, and he came up and said I looked lonely. I was not lonely, but then I told him I liked his truck, and we got chatting and whatnot. And then at the end of the day, his class also got out half an hour before mine. I happened to go to the bathroom, so I was down walking through the hall, and we passed, and then he was like, oh, I didn't get your number. So he got my number, texted me that night, and said, he was talking about how he hasn't been four-wheeling in a while. And I did grow up four-wheeling because my grandma lived in the country. So although I grew up in the suburbs, we grew up going to my grandma's house, and we were always four-wheeling there. So he was talking about how he hadn't been four-wheeling in a long time, and then he asked me what I was doing that weekend. This was on like a Tuesday. And I said, going four-wheeling with you. And then we had our first date of four-wheeling, and we got lunch that Saturday. And then the following Monday, we went to school, and that night, our program got shut down because of COVID.
Oh my gosh.
So we literally met like a few days before our program got shut down. And then we had secret dates for a little while because his dad didn't want anyone near anyone around COVID time. So we would like go to waterfalls. We'd go hiking. We'd go to like one of his dad's hunting property, which his dad found our shoe prints there. So he sent a picture of it. But yeah, we did that for like 4 weeks before finally his dad was like, okay, I think we're okay now. And then I was home because our trade program went online, which you can't really learn welding online. Yeah. So I was just sitting home all the time, so I was able to finally go meet them and everything.
Awesome. So how long have y'all been together now?
It's been a little over 5 years.
Wow. Congratulations.
Thank you. So we met in May.
And I heard from a little birdie that you're going to be getting married soon.
Yes, we have 3 months this week until the wedding.
That is so exciting. Speaking of like relationships in the RV, like what is y'all's version of date night in an RV and traveling?
It would probably be like going to a restaurant that's local. I prefer local over chains. So like typically we'll go somewhere. We actually don't go out to eat very often. Try and save money, and then also just like I've got, celiac disease and lactose intolerance, so it's not always fun to have to, find a place. But when we do, we just go to like a local restaurant.
Right. And I bet that it's easier to find those little like hidden gems when you're like moving around and you're getting to be in new places and stuff like that.
That is the fun thing about traveling is like, you don't have the same restaurants everywhere. You can find local and support local and like find new places. It's fun.
Right. So I've gotten a lot of questions because, I also live in an RV with my man, that there are some women who are like, I could never do that. Like, we're too close. There's no personal space, anything like that. So do you feel like there's a way that RV life with him has kind of made your relationship stronger by having to be in such an enclosed space together?
This is a tough question because our first apartment together was probably the size of our camper.
Okay.
I'm not even kidding. So like we like got close then, so we already were used to the small space. We knew what it was like. We knew what to expect. I wouldn't say it's necessarily made us closer, but it hasn't like given us, it hasn't pulled us apart by any means or anything like that.
Right. Like it hasn't been a negative in y'all's relationship.
Not at all. No.
That's good.
Not at all. There's definitely times where, you get overstimulated. Campers get messy easily if it's a mess in here. And when he's home, he gets really antsy. He can't sit still. So we just kind of like got to go do our own thing or like get out of the camper sometimes. Getting out of the camper is huge.
Right.
If you're like worried about space, definitely get out. We do something outside or have a date day or, anything like that.
Right. And I definitely feel like being in this environment, you definitely have to have like a pretty good communication with each other.
Definitely. Because you're literally like not on top of each other, but sort of.
Right.
And because you guys also live in a travel trailer, which we do. That's even worse than I don't want to say worse because I don't have a problem with it, but some people would say that, because of lack of space, that's worse than a fifth wheel, but...
Right. Oh, I cannot wait. I'm hoping that someday soon we can get a fifth wheel.
Yeah. Our plan is like the next year or two, hopefully. I don't know.
Same. See. We're in the saving period to get a fifth wheel, hopefully. Because they look really nice.
Yeah. We would absolutely love one. Our camper is paid off, so like it's hard because it's nice having a paid off camper and you've got no payment, and so like we want to ride that as long as we can. But our camper, I guess you have a bunk room too, but our bunk room's so full of like junk that I don't even know how we would have kids in this one. So that would be, we would probably need a fifth wheel for that.
I know we've had to, we ended up having to use my husband's work truck as storage. So like inside the cab of his truck, we just have like boxes and things in there because like you said, like our kids are in the bunk room. So it would be nice to be able to store some stuff in there, but they have all of their things. So that's just not going to happen.
Yeah.
But so I did want to ask you about that. So how did y'all end up getting your camper? So did y'all go through a dealer or?
So we actually got it on Facebook Marketplace.
Heck yeah.
Yeah, we did. We actually went to a dealer. So before I had come on the road with him, I flew down to Virginia where he was from New York. And we went to a dealership and we just walked around. We knew we weren't buying yet, but we just wanted to like at least go look. And the fee, like the added on fees were insane for a camper that no longer had a warranty. It was more than 3 years old. We were like, this is ridiculous. We can get this way cheaper on Facebook Marketplace. So then we started, well, mostly him. He started looking, and we sent them back and forth. We were doing the distance at the time, so we were just sending him on Facebook back and forth to each other. He went and looked at one that I really liked at the time. I loved it because the kitchen space was like huge with the living room, and it had the island, the kitchen island, but it didn't
Right.
have a bunk room. And you can't tell in Facebook pictures, but their whole ceiling was like sagging and had a big water spot.
Oh
And you're
no.
like, oh, it's fine. So you got to go look at them. Don't be afraid to like walk through as many as you possibly can, because that one was obviously not what it said in the description.
Right. Cause yeah, I just wanted to like let people know that you don't have to go through a dealer. Like you can definitely find those hidden gems on Facebook Marketplace. And like you said, y'all's is already paid off. Like unfortunately, we went to a dealer, so we are on a payment plan, and I don't know when this thing's gonna be paid off. So I kind of much rather would have just went to Facebook Marketplace.
Did you guys buy yours brand new?
No, it is used. I think it's like a 2023. I don't know. Colby was kind of the same way. Like he picked it out. He picked out like 3 or 4 of them and looked at all the specifics and stuff. And he just kind of showed me pictures and was like, which one do you like? I was like, that one's good.
Yeah, that's what Wilson did too. He was just like, which one's your favorite? And that's the only reason he did go look at that other one, because that one was my favorite. But this is the one that he had found and sent me. And he was like, well, do you like it? Like, he was like, I want you to like it, which is
Right.
nice because he wanted my opinion.
What is something that is unexpected that this lifestyle has taught you about your husband? Or, sorry, fiance? He's about to be your husband. So he's your husband.
Yes. I knew to an extent that he is the type of person that like stresses to no end about providing. Like he wants to do really, really well for us. He wants to like he pushes himself and he's such a hard worker. But he wants to provide, and so I knew to an extent that he was the type of person that stresses, but this lifestyle has like showed me that side of him like 10 times more. And it's made me like want to work harder to like help us. And not that he's asked me, he doesn't like say I need your help or whatever, which I think a lot of men do that. They're very silent about it. But
Right.
he does these like little quirks where like when he's stressed, he's like pulling his hair. And so I'm seeing like I see so much more of that with this lifestyle because his job is always on the line. We never know where we're gonna go until we go there, which we would never trade this lifestyle for anything. We love it and he loves it, but it is stressful at times. And like I've just noticed a lot more, even though he doesn't always say it. I can just see it, the stress that providing puts on him.
Right.
And probably a lot of guys for that matter.
Right. And I totally agree with you with when you're seeing how much work and stress they're putting into providing it. When you love somebody and you see them like that, it does make you want to do as much as you can to help them out. And
Yeah.
I feel like that's where people get confused with the whole, like, I know that you make him breakfast and lunch and, you do the cleaning and his laundry and stuff like that, which I also do. And people always assume that it's like, oh, those are things you have to do. Like he's forcing you to do those things or like you're unhappy to do those things. But when you really love somebody, you want to do whatever you can to make their life easier. I mean, they're doing the same for us by providing and going and working and doing all those things. It's like that is our way of providing for them.
Yeah. When you said that people just assume that like you're unhappy or whatever, that made me think of, do you know Ballerina Farm?
Yes.
That made me think of the thousands and thousands of comments she gets about people saying, "Oh, look how unhappy she is. He's for." I see it all the time on her page, and I'm like, "How do you know she's unhappy? Like, she chose
Right.
this life. It's not like she's being held captive. Like some
Right.
women just want to be more traditional and want kids. Like,
And the thing is, they don't see, or they're not looking at the fact that like she's getting to follow a lot of her dreams. Like she has her own little ballet studio at their house. She has, the dairy farm, which I think she said before, that's something she always wanted to do. And it's like, she's able to do all of these things just because it isn't that like boss bitch mentality, like I don't need no man, that everyone is trying to push or has been trying to push, doesn't mean that she doesn't feel successful in her life.
And you can have more than one dream. Like maybe she wanted to be a professional ballerina forever, or maybe she also wanted to settle down and have kids. Like just because you have a career doesn't mean you can't have kids. Just because you have one dream doesn't mean you can't have another dream. I don't know.
Right. I mean, I even have talked about that, her specifically, and saying that like me as a mother, there were a lot of things that I would have probably done if I wouldn't have had kids. Like I probably would have pursued these other goals and these other dreams that I had since I was a little girl. But once I became a mother, it was like all of a sudden those things didn't matter as much to me. Like my children became the total like goal of my life. I kind of don't understand how other people look at her life and are like, she had kids, that means she just hates her life, the fact that she gave up all these things. But in motherhood, you're going to give up things. Like that is just part of it.
People on the internet are wild.
Yeah, because I mean, I'm sure that you have gotten the comments, because like your content is very similar to mine, is that like I'm sure people have told you like, why do you do all that for him? Like why don't you
do it the night before?
Yeah, like, or why don't you have a job or whatever? You don't think you're feel more purposeful? I've gotten that. Like, you don't think you have more purpose in this life? And it's like, I actually feel very purposeful in my life because one, I'm a mother, and two, I'm a wife to an amazing man.
Or I've gotten, which you guys are married, so it might be a little bit different. But for me, this was back when we were still dating, and I was like just getting into social media, but I would get comments from women saying, you need to protect yourself. You need an income. He better be giving you money. He better be putting aside money for you. Like all this stuff. And it's like, what happened to like trust and traditional relationships where you don't plan for the end, Right.
Exactly. And I feel like, I definitely believe in like whatever you put out in the world, you're going to get back.
Energy. Yeah.
Yes. So if you're always thinking to yourself like, oh, well, when this ends, I need to make sure I have a plan, or when this ends, blah, blah, blah. Like you're putting it out that there is going to be an end, like you said, like, but it's like people can't wrap their minds around the fact that like some people's relationships really do have that genuine trust and that loyalty, and like, know that you can depend on them.
It's funny that you said energy, because I'm a huge believer in energy. And that's what I told a lot of those women. I was saying, like, I don't believe in, like, planning for the end. I believe that's going to make the end happen,
Right. Absolutely. I agree 1000%. What is the silliest thing that you two have argued about in the RV?
Oh, boy. Honestly, it might have been the remodel. He was so against that for the longest time. I had to pull some serious strings to get that to happen. And it was never like a fight or anything, but we just like would go back and forth on it. And he would talk about, the devalue of it and all this stuff. And I had to tell him that I'm paying for it with my money I had made from TikTok. I am doing everything myself because I did used to work for a modeling company. And I was like, you don't have to lift the fingers. So
you just get to come home and it's all shiny and brand new.
Exactly.
Honestly, kudos to you, because you know what? I can't be trusted with I know you said you worked for like a remodeling, so like you definitely have more experience. But if I was to try to remodel this by myself, our camper would probably be falling apart within 2 weeks.
Well, at least you acknowledge that and like don't go for it, because I've seen some people remodel their camper and like they have no experience whatsoever, and like it turns out disastrous. Which in that scenario, if you're planning on keeping it forever, fine. But like, you do have to think at some point you might end up trying to sell it, and now you've just ruined it. So.
Right. That's where I want to remodel in here so bad, but I know that we want to end up selling it. So I'm like itching to like paint things and do things, but I'm just like, let me wait.
Yeah.
So what would you say is your proudest, like, we survived that moment?
I'm trying to think, because we've been, knock on wood, we've been so lucky. We haven't had any crazy damage. We haven't had any floods. So we've honestly been so super lucky. It would probably be some of those like really long distance drives that I would say we survived that, because by the end of it, you guys want to rip each other's hair out. You're exhausted. Like, everyone just needs some good home cooked food and some sleep. So like, surviving that is a win.
Absolutely. On travel days, I just know not to ask my husband too many questions. Yes. I'm just like, yep, yes, sir. Let's do it.
Yeah. And my fiance hates talking while driving. Like, once in a while, we'll have like a deep conversation, but in order for him, I'm the opposite. In order for him to focus on driving, he likes his music blaring, quiet, and he doesn't eat the majority of the drive. For me, snacking keeps me awake. I need to be talking to someone like at all times to keep me awake. We're just like opposite in that way. So on travel days, I generally try and find movies to watch on my phone, because I know to like leave him alone.
Dude, me and Colby are the exact same way. That is so funny, because like he'll be like zoned in on the road. He's like on a mission, and I'm sitting there. I'm like, so what's up? So how was your day? And he's just like, good. So then I start talking to my kids, because I'm like, I don't know who else to talk to.
At least you got your kids to talk to. I don't have anyone. So.
I know we were talking a little bit about like the fact that you kind of do the more traditional roles in your relationship. So do you feel like those things are important for you to do?
Absolutely. And I did them anyways, even when I was working. But the reason that I did them, he never asked me to, I just started doing them. And the reason that I did is because I was working a 40-hour job a week, and he was working 60 plus hours. So I get home hours before him. I'm not going to ask him to go cook dinner, or go clean the bathroom or something after such a long physical day. So I've always kind of done them, but now it's more important than ever, because although I do have a little bit of income, I'm here all day. I get to work from home. I'm thankful for that. And he still, is working this incredibly long physical day. So, and I also know I know how his brain works, which a lot of blue collar men's brains work this way. They need to come home and like decompress, especially on the hot days. They don't want to go blabber on with us necessarily. So I want him to be able to come home to the peace of a clean camper, a home cooked meal, clothes cleaned, stuff ready for the next day, stuff like that.
Do you feel like people, which again, I think we kind of touched on this, but I'm just going to ask it anyway. Do you feel like people have looked down on you because of that?
There's people that in our life, and I think a lot of people will have these type of people in their life, but they believe in women working. They believe in men being home more. They believe in the house roles being split evenly, the bills being split evenly. And so we've definitely gotten judgment from people from that. And I'm sure that you have too.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And a lot of times people will mention, oh, you don't have a career, you don't have this, like, don't you want a career? Don't you want to be independent? All this stuff. And I am very independent to an extent. I was never taught the traditional roles. They kind of came naturally to me, if that makes sense.
It does.
I've gotten questions before from girls that were like, I want to be a good blue collar wife. How do I do that? And I'm like, huh? I kind of, at first I was like, what do you mean? But then I had to like remember that these are things I just started doing on my own the traditional roles I took on my own without anyone asking. It's just, I think it's partly personality too. I did want to ask you too about that. I wanted to ask you if Colby asked you to do those traditional roles, or if like you took them on your own as well.
No, yeah, I feel like I'm listening to myself right now. It's crazy because like I also was not taught the traditional roles. So like I'm Samoan, and in our culture, the women are very like matriarch, so like they're very like high up there. And so it isn't like women serving men or like doing the traditional thing. And like growing up, my dad did all the cooking. Like he did a lot of things that like I now do.
Oh
And
my
so
goodness. That's
once
so funny.
again, yeah, it's crazy that like it didn't, no one told me to do this. And also Colby didn't tell me or ask me to do these things either. It was just, I saw that was how our life ran more smoothly, and how that kept more stress from him, which in turn kept stress from me.
Mm-hmm.
So I agree with you.
It's so funny that you bring up your dad, because my dad did everything. He
Yeah.
cooked. He did most of the cleaning. On top of working 50 hours a week, he worked more than my mom did, and he still was doing all those things. And I think maybe like you and I have just, maybe we're just a little bit more like our dad in that way. Maybe we got that personality trait from him.
Right.
But like I said, I didn't see the traditional growing up of my mom doing more. My mom worked, and that's what she believes in. She believes in women working, and the men being home more, which is fine. But like, I just played into the role of my dad a little bit more, I think.
Right. Same. Because I mean, I've also had people assume that the reason why I do the more traditional roles and stuff is based off of religion. And for the longest time, I actually was not religious at all. So I was like, no, it's not even religion. That's it, like, there is no outer source that is making me want to take on these roles. Like, it literally is just an internal feeling. And it,
Yeah.
like I said, I started doing these things and I noticed that that is what just worked for us.
Yeah.
I mean, I am religious now, but back then I was not. So it was like, I don't know. It's like people keep trying to find all of these other reasons as to how could you be doing that? Like, it just doesn't, like, for them, it doesn't make sense that someone would just want to do them.
Yeah. Yeah. It has nothing to do with religion for me either. And I think I partly started it too because I am like slightly OCD. Like, I do like a clean camper, and like when my fiance would do his laundry, like he doesn't put it away. So I started doing those things like very, very early on in our relationship. Like within the first few weeks of dating, I started putting his clothes away, not because he asked me to. I just wanted to do it for him, partly because he was working more than I was, like I said. And then also that's just not, he's not an organized person, at all. And so
Right.
I had no problem taking that over at all. Like, it made me happy to do it.
Right. See, and I feel like this is just my theory too, and this could just be a personal thing, is that I feel like men don't see the things that we do. Like the details and things like that they see at work all day, we probably wouldn't see, or whatever. But it's like there are things around the camper or whatever that I know if I was to leave for 2 weeks, like Colby wouldn't even realize that that is not being done, or like that needed to be done. And so
Yeah.
it wouldn't get done. And so it's like I see it. So why don't I just do it? Like,
Yeah, exactly. There's sometimes like, I don't know, maybe like if I got a new flower out front, I'd wait to see if you'd notice it. And they don't, they don't really notice it. Or like if they do, they just don't really say anything. But that's so true that like they
I feel
just
like
don't
we
notice.
just
Like,
we see life and things differently.
yeah. Yeah,
And
definitely.
I don't want, and I feel like some women, they fault their partner for that, but they don't realize that that's just not how their brain works. And so if you kind of can't be mad at them about it. Like,
Yeah. I think it might have been Chelsea that had shared this, but it was just like a man putting spaghetti in like a pitcher of that's supposed to be like a pitcher of iced tea or something. You know, but like at least he did it. It might not be the right container, but
At least he tried.
yeah. Right.
A for effort.
Yeah.
How important do you feel like it is for in that type of relationship for the man to appreciate all of that behind the scenes stuff that's going on that the woman is doing?
Oh my goodness, it is so important. And like honestly, we still work on this every day too. Like we and like it's about communication, kind of like you said earlier, like recognition, you know, we talk about that. If he feels like he needs more recognition for all of the hard work that he's doing, then we talk about that. And like every now and then we kind of like almost have like a check-in, I guess you could say, about like, hey, I need this, hey, I need that, you know.
I love that.
But yeah, it is extremely important. And I don't think it works unless the man does recognize what's being done by the woman and vice versa.
Right. Like how we were talking about that we just kind of took on these traditional roles and like no one told us to do it and whatever. I feel like me personally, I wouldn't have gotten to that point if Colby never showed me appreciation or never showed me recognition for anything I did. That would make me resentful and be like, well, then I'm not going to do it anymore, you know?
Yeah.
But the fact that Colby is very, very good at, you know, just telling me thank you for the most littlest things. And so that, like, when I get that, it's like, oh, I want to keep doing them or I want to do more. Like, you know?
Yeah.
So do you feel the same way?
Yes, absolutely. Like when he thanks me for making his lunch, or like even when he comes home and I like hand him a plate of food like ready, you know, he's like, "Thank you." Like that means so much, and I love doing those things for him. And like I've gotten comments before, I'm sure you've gotten comments as well about, "Oh, you wouldn't be doing that if it weren't for the camera." Like,
Oh,
yes, I
yes.
would. What do you mean? This is literally who I am. Like I'm literally putting my exact, like I'm not fake on here at all. I was making his lunch since 2020, well before I had TikTok. I've only had TikTok for like a year and a half. So
Yes. Like my thing is it's something that I'm already doing. If I can monetize off of it, why not? You know?
right. Like literally just film your everyday life, and I mean people are making money all the time on it. So why can't we?
Right. I get that all the time. Like, oh, she had to set up a camera, or whenever the camera's not on, she's not doing all that. Like,
Meanwhile, they're on social media scrolling for content.
right.
I really, really do love cooking for him. Like it's just something that I love. I think it might be like a love language kind of. I love
same.
cooking for him.
Same.
Yeah.
I think it might go back to maybe like our love languages are acts of service. I don't know. I know mine is.
Yeah, it could be.
What would you tell a younger woman who's scared that embracing the traditional roles means giving up power?
I think maybe that you wouldn't realize it until like you're doing the traditional roles, but like the traditional roles are empowering in themselves, in my opinion. I feel very empowered to be able to cook and like provide that aspect for our little family. I guess it's hard thinking about like a woman who like wants to be in that traditional role because I didn't know that I wanted that until it just happened, you know. So I guess like for a woman who's like looking for a man that's a little bit more traditional, but like is worried that he'd be controlling, it'd be about finding the right person, you know, for that. But there was this like trend or whatever that went around of girls saying, "I'm not doing wife duties on a girlfriend's salary" or anything like that, you know. Who you show yourself in the beginning, like who you show yourself as in the beginning of your relationship, is going to set up your entire relationship. If you're not doing those traditional roles from the beginning, but like you want to be someday, like how is your man supposed to know that? You're just going to flip a switch when you guys are married and be like, "Oh, now I'm cooking and cleaning and taking care of him." Like then he's going to be like, "Who did I just marry? Like this is a different person than who you were." I guess my advice is like, be yourself from the beginning. If you want to do those traditional roles, like show that, you know, start doing those traditional roles in the very beginning. And like the man's going to show you who he is very early on as well in that scenario. If you're making his lunch and, you know, he's not appreciative of it, or is like, "I need you to make it this way," you know, and starts showing signs of control, then that's obviously not your person. But I don't think that should stop you from being yourself in the beginning and showing those traditional roles that you value and want to have in your life.
I completely agree with that because, like you said, if say you're not doing those things before and then you get married and you're starting to do those things and then you find out that he's not appreciative, you're already married. That creates like a whole nother problem in itself. If you can figure out those things beforehand, where it can just be like, oh, hey, bye. Like, you don't got to worry about getting the government involved.
Exactly.
Like, that is a better thing to do, you know? And I hear that all the time too. Like, I'm not doing that until I have a ring on my finger. And it's like, how does that make sense though? Really? Like, I feel like there's a little bit of context that they're leaving out of that, is that like, okay, yeah, don't do those wifely duties if you're doing them and the guy you're with is a total a-hole. Then yeah, you know, you probably shouldn't even be with him at that point. Like,
right.
You shouldn't be debating on what duties you're doing. You should just leave. But you should definitely, like you said, like I was the same way. I was doing these things from the beginning of our relationship before we had kids. Like I was taking care of like things for him and whatever. And he was always so appreciative from the beginning. And that kind of showed me like, this is someone I would want to do this for forever, you know?
Exactly. Absolutely. We were the exact same way. So,
right. I do want to talk a little bit about like your content creation because you are one of my favorite content creators. You can tell that a lot of your content, you put a lot of yourself into, you put a lot of thought into. Like you're not just like pulling up a phone and just talk. Like you have a very good presence on social media, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So what inspired you to start sharing your life online?
Part of it was, okay, so when I quit my job, at the time I was working at actually Lowe's, the hardware store, not the grocery store, which I didn't even know there was a grocery store called Lowe's.
I didn't know either. I was like, I knew immediately. I was like, oh, she working hardware.
Yeah.
So you taught me something.
Yeah, so I worked there for a while and I was a manager for a while, and then when I was starting to tell people like, hey, I'm going to be leaving, I'm going with my at the time boyfriend to travel. We're going to live in a camper and travel for his job. Everyone, like customers, I mean, that's who I was like mostly talking to. People at the store that I worked with thought it was cool too, but most customers that I talked with were like, wow, that's like a once in a lifetime opportunity. That's so cool what you're doing. And like maybe it's because where we live is kind of small town, you know, not many people get out of their hometown. So everyone was like, this is incredible. And somebody had given me advice to start a journal. And I did start a journal, like, I don't know, I might have written like 2 or 3 pages. I'm really bad at remembering. I love journaling, but I'm really bad at remembering. And so when I was trying to find ways to make money online, like from the camper, obviously remote work was extremely hard to find. A lot of them are scams. A lot of them you still have to like go to the office once in a while. Like all these things were restricting me from getting a remote job. So I just kept searching, and I realized that, so for a while I was posting on just Instagram. I didn't even have TikTok probably until like the very, very end of 2023. I finally learned that people can make money on this app. And I was like, wow, that's cool. And so I started sharing tidbits on Instagram the beginning of 2024 about camper life. And then I got more into it on TikTok when I found out about that they can make money on there. It started kind of as my digital journal with the hopes of eventually helping us, you know, helping us with reach our goals and like not have all the financial stress on my fiance. But it initially started as a digital journal of me just like kind of filming our life. Also sort of for like family back home. I thought they would think it's cool, and that's how it started.
I love that. So did you ever think that your content would resonate with people the way that it is now?
No. Not at all. I get messages from girls all the time, and they're like, I just want to let you know, like, I'm moving into a camper soon with my boyfriend. We're about to go travel. I'm like, I love your content. You've helped me so much. And Like, I've almost teared up at a couple of the messages I've gotten just because people are so sweet when they like reach out and let me know that they can relate to me and are doing this lifestyle. And it's incredible because like when we were back home before I even came on the road with him, I didn't know how many couples and families were on the road.
Right.
You don't realize it until you start traveling or through social media. I've noticed a lot of families. That's where I've met a lot of friends too, and amazing women. And it's incredible to know that I've helped people. And I was going to say girls, but I've gotten messages from guys too. There was some, guys looking for welding jobs or like want to know how my fiance got started. So I've helped men as well. But it is really rewarding, I guess.
Yeah, I think even my brother-in-law messaged you one time to ask you about how to do the trailer on the I think it's the trailer on the back of the RV.
Yes.
And it was so funny because he didn't know that I followed you. So he was like, yeah, I messaged this girl on TikTok. You need to see like how they have it set up. This is so cool. And he pulled up your profile and I was like, dude, that's Tori. I was like, I follow her.
And I didn't even put two and two together when I did a video reply of his comment. Like, obviously, he had the same last name, and I didn't even think. It just never.
I mean, it's a pretty common last name.
For the longest time, I knew you as two kids and a mullet later.
Yeah.
It wasn't even. I mean, you only just recently said your full name right on here, right?
Yeah. So for the longest time, I was so afraid of giving out my real name just because it's so unique and like I was, social media can be pretty scary. So I know that like I'm once again the only one in the United States with my name. So like it is still a little scary, but I went through this phase of like I just want to be like totally me. Like I don't want to have an alter ego. Like I just want people to know me as who I am. Like this is my name.
Well,
Yeah.
I'm glad you shared it because you have the absolute coolest name I have ever seen.
Thank you. Were you nervous at first to share your lifestyle online?
Yes. I was gonna say maybe you can relate to this too. I can't watch like my early videos. I cannot. They are so cringy.
Yeah.
I'm like, you can tell how
used so many filters, like, and like it just looks so crazy. Like,
yeah. Well, it also took me a while to learn about like the settings you should be filming in, or like you should probably be using your back camera more. I didn't know that, and so the quality of my first videos is not good, anyways. But then also you can just tell how awkward and uncomfortable I was. Like it took me a while to get really comfortable on the camera.
Same. I still get uncomfortable. Like I can't film it. Well, I can film in public, but very, very little bit.
Oh yeah, I do very, very minimal as well. Like if I'm in the grocery store, I wait for no one to be in the aisle.
Yes.
And then I start talking. Like I make sure no one's watching. I do not like being seen.
Same.
Doing it. And I still can't even do it like in front of my fiance. I can't like talk to the camera in front of him.
Oh my gosh, I have to tell Colby, I'm like, can you get out of the room so I can do my voiceover?
Yes.
Like, I just don't want you to hear me.
I go hide. I either go in the bedroom or I go in one of our cars to film a voiceover.
Same. I go in the bathroom all the time. I'm sure that which this is more, I'm trying to kind of cater to, because I, once again, get a lot of messages from girls who are wanting to start like the social media journey and content creation. And I know that a lot of it is kind of like learn as you go, but I do like to be somewhat of a help if I can. So I do want to ask you, like, can you kind of tell us about those times where I'm sure you've had the same experiences where you kind of feel discouraged and you kind of feel like just giving up and like stop posting? Like, what would you say to someone who is going through that?
I would say don't give up. I mean, that sounds like very generic, but seriously, like anyone who has gotten big in content creation, they will tell you that like you do not blow up overnight. You do not blow up even in a month. It took me, I've been posting for over a year now, and it's taken me that long to get to where I am. And there were times where I had dropped off a little bit when I was busy with life, but I would not be where I am if I had let those 200 view videos get in my head, you know? If I had given up, I wouldn't be here. It's literally just that easy. Like, just don't give up. Just keep on posting.
Right. The same for me. Like, I've been posting now for 3 years. So, and that's how I've gotten to where, you know, I'm at. It didn't just happen from like a couple videos, and that's how I got all the, you know, I've been working on this thing for years. So like you said, like there's even times now, like I have a pretty large following, but I still go through periods where like my videos are getting barely any views. And I'm like, what did I do wrong? Like, did I piss off TikTok? Like, do people not like me anymore? And even till this day, like just a month ago, I was like, maybe I should just stop. Like, you know, I've even had those thoughts in my mind. And it's like,
Yeah.
I have to really just like sit myself down and be like, this is just a phase. Keep going.
Yep.
Keep going. It's going to get back. And that's
Literally.
exactly what
Yes.
happens every time.
And that's the name of the game with social media. Like, there's times when, like, for example, back in December, TikTok shop videos were being pushed like crazy. So the creator fund videos were not being pushed.
Right.
And so my views were like crazy low on those types of videos. And there was like 2 weeks leading up to like Christmas, even maybe the week after Christmas, where I was like, am I shadow banned? Like,
Yeah.
is something wrong? But it's just the name of the game with social media. There are times where trends pop up, or they're pushing certain videos, or there's just like always something. There's times of the year, there's days of the week where people are on less, you know. There's always going to be drops in your sales, in your video views, and all sorts of things like that. And that's just how it goes, you know. And so it goes back to the not giving up.
Just another thing before I forget is like, even if say you post a video and it doesn't get that many views, do not delete it. Don't delete those low view videos, because I have weeks have gone by and those low view videos all of a sudden went viral, like out of nowhere. Like, it's just, the algorithm works very weird. You just you just got to keep like, honestly, what I've noticed is the biggest thing that the algorithm loves is consistency. If you go 2-3 weeks without posting and then try to post and think that you're going to get a lot of views, it's just not going to happen usually.
And then you can't complain about how low your views are because you went 2-3 weeks without posting. Like, that's on you.
Right.
Obviously, the algorithm's going to be mad at you for a little bit.
I love how we talk about the algorithm like it's a person.
It is. It's so mean.
Was your fiance on board with like the whole social media thing, or did it like from the beginning, or did it take like kind of some convincing?
We actually had like a little bit of like a roller coaster with that. So he initially is the one that was like, you need to be posting 3 times a day. Like, look at this girl. He sent me Allie from Alabama, and he's like, look at what she's like telling everyone. And then he'll randomly send me videos saying like, oh, Kylie Pitts blew up overnight or whatever. And somebody he worked with used to post, because a lot of the guys that pipeline have TikToks as well, you know. And there was this guy that used to be big on TikTok when he used to post, and he told Wilson to tell me to be posting 3 times a day. And this was like last early summer when I really, really started like diving into it. And so he was totally on board, you know, pushing it. And then I think when I started to like really grow, he's very, very private. Like, he doesn't want anyone to know where we are, what we're doing, anything about his life. So there's times where he's like not loved it, you know, and so there are times where I've helped him, you know, at work, and he wanted me to just like leave social media in the dust, because that is really good money, the blue collar money, you know. And social media is so inconsistent. But now I've gotten to a point now where like I'm doing pretty well, and I think he is like really like on board with that. You know, he's happy that I'm doing well with it, and that I'm growing, and that I enjoy it.
Right. That's funny because Colby is very similar. So I don't let him fool you. Okay, I know he acts a fool on that camera, but behind the scenes, usually I'm having to like, come on, babe, like, please just do this video with me, because he is really not a social person. Like,
Yeah.
he, in the beginning, when I think when Colby made or started to make an appearance on my page was more so whenever I started making him breakfast. And whenever I was filming us like hugging each other and stuff, and I remember in the beginning, he was like, this is so weird. Like, I don't like this. And he was like, why do you have to have the camera in my face? Like, he hated it. And then, but once I started making money off the views, I showed him and I was like, you see, like, your face on there matters.
I tell Wilson that too. I'm like, the people love you. They
Yeah.
want to see you.
Sometimes I get a little jealous because people ask for Colby more than they ask about me.
Yes. It's so funny. He's the same way. He doesn't, yeah, he's not social and he doesn't love being on the camera. Pretty much anytime I've captured him or like he's in my videos, which is rare, he doesn't always know that he's in the video.
Yes. So that's kind of what Colby said. He was like, I just don't like the camera in my face. If you have it set up somewhere, I'll try to just forget about it. And I was like, okay, cool.
Yeah. Yeah, which it's funny because the other morning, you know, I have the camera, the tripod out while I'm filming breakfast, making his breakfast. And then he's used to it being there now and he'll just like walk around it or whatever. It was funny when I first started, he was kind of like, are you filming? Like, where am I allowed to go? But now he just walks all around it. So I started doing this thing. I did it the other morning and I had it in my video, where I just left the tripod. I didn't have my light on because that would be a dead giveaway. But
right.
Obviously he knows I had my tripod out for filming breakfast. So I just like left it over by the couch so that it was facing the door, and I got him in it. And I think we might have. I don't think we hugged in that clip because we had done it off camera. But I got him playing with the dog, and then him leaving for work. I was like, he didn't even know.
Got him. I love that. These men, I feel like the blue collar men are also similar because whenever I was talking to Chelsea, like we were talking about how her husband is so similar to Colby as well. And just like, they're so like stoic and just like,
yeah.
Like no bullshit. Like, but honestly, that's what makes them the best, you know?
Yeah. And Wilson's never going to fake something. Like I could never ask him to either. And I can't fake myself. So anything you see on social media is real for me, you know? But if I was like the type of person that was like, oh, we need to act this way in this video for this reason, he would be like, I'm not doing that.
Oh my gosh, Colby is the same way. And I know, and like, I tell people that and they're like, what? No way. Like, cause he's in so many of your videos. And I'm like, I have to literally beg him sometimes. Like, just for example, the other day, like I wanted him to, it was this cute video where he like picks me up over his shoulder and runs away. He ended up doing it correctly because I posted it. But the first time I was like, okay, all we're going to do is I'm going to sing the song a little bit. You're going to throw me over your shoulder and run away. It's going to be so cute. So I start singing the song. He wraps his arm around my neck and starts choking me out. And I was like, dude, what the heck? And he was like, no, post that. It's so much more real. I was like, dude, that's not the vision I was going for.
Right.
What is something, which I'm super interested to hear this. What is something that you feel like people don't realize about the behind the scenes aspect of content creation while being on the road in the RV and like stuff like that? Because I feel like it is kind of different for us compared to somebody who has a house and could have like a whole room set up for like content creation.
Yeah. I think maybe a lot of people don't realize that on travel days, we don't post, hey, I'm in this state. I'm in this state. You know, like you don't post the road. So a lot of times when I post a travel video, we're already there, you know? And I think most people do that, but they don't realize it. So like, obviously everyone's commenting, safe travels and all that. But I think a lot of people don't realize like the prep that goes into it for travel days, because you got to have content ready to go. Like if it's going to be a 2-day drive, you need to have videos ready.
Right.
So it is a lot of prep work for those days, especially being a content creator and the fact that we have to travel as well.
kind of like what we were talking about with the consistency. Like, even if you're traveling, like, you gotta keep up the consistency and the posting.
Exactly. Yeah. Because if I fall off for 2 days, obviously TikTok's not going to be happy.
Mr. Algorithm will be angry.
Yeah. He'll be mad. I want to know your answer to that question.
Mine is basically like the setup of things. So like if someone was to be on the other side right now and looking at my setup of this little podcast area, they'd be like, what the hell? But it's because I don't have room. Like, I don't have a space to just like set things up. Like, I'm literally at our dining room table right now.
Yeah. Same.
And the bathroom has become kind of like my content room, if that makes sense, because it's like the only room that my kids aren't like in the background, like doing things, and Colby's in the back, like, it's my only little personal space.
Yeah.
So I feel like I have to be very creative with where I film content, how I film content, all of that.
Yeah, definitely. And it is probably a little bit harder for you to like have to weave around kids in there as well.
Absolutely. Like I love doing like lives and stuff, but I can't when my kids are here, because I do show them a little bit on my page. I tried not to make them my full focus, because that's not kind of the content I'm going for. I don't want to be like family vlogging. Like, that's not, I like it focusing more on just kind of me and Colby, because again, they are children. So like, they can't really say if they want something in the video or not, or they don't really understand the full scope. So like when I'm doing lives and stuff, I'm usually in the bathroom and standing up starts to hurt after a while. So I don't really get on live as much as I would like, but
I was so curious about that, because your kids, they really aren't in it as much. And I'm like, where are your kids? Like, how are you doing this around kids? They're so quiet. They must be really good. Or I don't know. I'm like, what do you do? Like,
thankfully, I will say my kids are pretty great. Like, and I'm not trying to be biased because I'm their mom, but my kids are very just like independent. And I think it also has to do with the fact that they're a little bit older. If I had like toddlers running around, that would be a whole different story. But, my daughter's 6, she's almost 7, and my son's 10. So like, they want to just do their own thing. Like, they love just like playing their video games or watching TV, and they're just usually just chilling. So I try to, which we have like a schedule. So I try to be very like on schedule with them and keep them on a routine. So like in the morning time, they both have 2 hours each on the video game, and that's it for the day. So during that time is my filming time, because that's when they're sitting down and like occupied.
That's awesome. I'm so glad you answered that question, because I mean, I've been thinking about it too, but then about like when we have kids, even, someday, like, how do you manage that? And keeping a schedule, like, I've always been someone that thrives on a schedule. So keeping a schedule, even when you have kids, is like really, really important. And I'm really glad that you shared that part. So kind of can give me some ideas.
Oh, absolutely. And I will tell you, like, even as babies, like they're babies. They're not going to always do what you want them to do. But like, if you keep them on a pretty good routine and schedule, it is so much better for you. Like that was one thing when my kids were growing up. Like, we had a specific time that we laid down for bed, and like whatever, like we weren't staying up till midnight, 2:00, that.
Yeah.
And I feel like it got to the point where with both of my children that at some point their bodies got used to that schedule. So at that time, no matter what, they were ready to go to sleep,
Yeah.
So definitely routine is huge. I would say keep it even whenever you do have children. It just makes your life so much easier. What is the funniest behind the scenes moment that didn't make it into a video?
I've caught on camera, though, the noise anyways of him farting. And I just had to, cut that out.
Colby too, dude. Oh my gosh, that's so funny, because why are all these men the same?
It's funny because his best friend back home keeps asking me, because he he watches the morning breakfast videos, and he's like, I'm still waiting. I know you've got some good like background footage in the mornings when he's in the bathroom. He's like, I'm waiting for it. And like the time that I caught Wilson, I caught him burping one time, and the time I caught him farting, I meant, when you're editing, you just cut it out, and then I go through and delete all those videos. And I did it so quickly that I forget, but I keep wanting to save one for him so I can send it to him.
Yeah, I've gotten some really questionable things in my videos. And whenever I'm editing it, I like double, triple, quadruple check to make sure I edited it out, because Colby is a nasty old man. Okay. He be doing real weird things sometimes. And I literally will point at my phone and I'm like, dude, I'm filming. Like, stop doing that. And he's like, you can edit it out. But like, my fear, like, I have anxiety. So I'm like, what if one day I forget and you're over there like doing some weird stuff?
Yeah, that's become like their little weapon. When I first started filming, he would like say something and be like, oh, I'm sorry. And I'm like, oh no, I can edit it out. And now that's their weapon. They're like, oh, just edit it out.
Oh, Colby, yes. Like, there are certain things where I'm like, hey, you can't do this because TikTok doesn't like that. Like, my video will get flagged. And so if he doesn't want me to film him, he'll do that. Yeah, like he uses it as this like. What do you hope that women, especially other blue collar wives, feel when they watch your content?
That's a good question. I hope that they can feel like the sense of home. Because, I told you that Wilson and I met and like immediately started hanging out, and like that was it. And it's because he felt like home. And there's no other way to describe it, because initially when I first met him, I didn't know how to describe it. And I was just kind of like telling people there's this weird feeling. I don't know what it is, but it feels very familiar. And so like I hope when people watch my content, they get that feeling that I felt with Wilson. And I hope that they feel like the hominess and the familiarness.
Well, I just want you to know that I feel that. So you already have one in that jar. It's, once again, it's just been really nice to have other people to relate to. Because like you said, whenever I first got into this lifestyle, before I came on the road, that's what I was doing. I was just like scrolling through TikTok, Instagram, trying to find anybody else that was doing this, because I felt very alone. And I feel like at that time, not a lot of people were showing their lifestyle doing this. Yeah. And so compared to that time to now, I feel like there's so many of us now. And I feel like that sense of community, like even with, like the Facebook page, like just having those groups and knowing that you can ask them some advice, or, they went through the exact same thing you went through. It's just really nice. And, you are definitely a major part of that community, I feel like. So you keep doing what you're doing, because it is definitely resonating with people for sure.
Yes, you too. And it's funny that you say that, because when even a year ago, I started posting, I guess, early summers when I got really serious about TikTok and Instagram with the camper life and blue collar life. And even back then, I found your account, and then there were so many accounts of couples that traveled as empty nesters or as couples that worked remotely, and so they just were your classic RVer. There was not many, if any, other than yours that I could find accounts that were these blue collar families that traveled. And and then now my For You page is flooded with it, because I think that's partly because that's what I'm interested in, that's what I post, so I see it all the time now. But there are new accounts popping up all the time, and it makes me happy, because like you said, we're all supporting each other, and there wasn't many. So now it's easy for people to find tips and feel comfortable going on the road and not scared about it.
Absolutely. Because I was terrified in the beginning, for sure.
That's funny that you say that, because earlier I was like, nope, I was ready.
I was so scared. I was so scared. I didn't know what I was. And I think partly, again, it was because at that time, I couldn't find any other blue collar wives on social media that were traveling in an RV. So I was like, do people even do this? Like, is this even a thing?
Yeah. Yeah,
But
and you don't see it until like you start traveling, and now almost every campground we go to, there's families.
absolutely. Yeah, it's gotten to the point where every campground we've gone to so far, somebody recognizes us from TikTok. And I'm like, hey!
Oh my goodness, it is the weirdest thing. I've gotten recognized a couple times, and I'm like, this is insane. Like, you know me, you watch me.
I feel the same way. And Colby was like, you have like a lot of followers. I was like, it doesn't matter. Like, I just think it's crazy that people enjoy watching us so much that they recognize our faces, that they remember our names. Like,
Yeah,
it's really awesome. Like, it's crazy,
like,
but it's awesome.
It's surreal. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I just want to thank you so much for doing this interview. I have really, really enjoyed talking to you and just like getting to pick your brain about a few things. I know that a lot of my following who is going to listen to this is also going to love hearing your side of the story and just about your life. So thank you so much for coming and being a guest.
Thank you for having me. This was so much fun.
Heck yeah. Well, first of all, before we leave, where can people find you if they don't already follow you?
Oh, good question. I have TikTok and Instagram are my main ones. Life with Tori, RV Life. And then I am on Facebook and YouTube as well. Same thing. Actually, Facebook's Life with Tori. YouTube is because I made YouTube not that long ago, so I did put my soon-to-be last name. So it's Life with Tori Christmas. So
your last name's gonna be Christmas?
Yes.
And you moved into the RV a day after Christmas?
Yes.
Yo, that's crazy.
I know.
I love that.
I am, once we do get married, I am planning on changing my usernames, which I don't know. I'm like scared to, but I do want to change them eventually. But that's what they are for now. It's mostly just Life with Tori, and you'll find me.
Cool. All right. Well, we're going to go ahead and end this episode. Thank y'all for watching or listening to us once again. And we will see y'all next time. Bye.